Hey, gentlemen. Well, we're on the last chapter of the book, chapter 18, the last chapter in the Becoming a Man After God's Heart. There is a small, short wrap-up session at the very end, one more video to go at the end of this to kind of close and look at an overview of the entire book. But this is the study of the last chapter, chapter 18, Brothers in the Battle 2, where we look at the final three areas. We looked at environment, prayer, and Bible study and reading on the last one, chapter 17. And now this one is going to be talking about accountability, principles, and then relationships. So here's a few principles to camp out on with this chapter. First of all, those three areas are vitally important we look at. And then the whole Calgary Stampede rodeo story of synergy and that concept, man, guys really resonate with that. And we get the whole 30,000 pound pull principle and how key that is when we as guys come together to do battle together in the spiritual realm. And then really camping out on Ecclesiastes 4, 9, 10, and 12. We talked about that a couple of times throughout the book, but it's such a vital scripture for us to understand and live out in our lives. And then just this whole concept of developing principles. I've seen the developing principles thing, and guys that have been Christians for many years, decades, understanding how to create principles in their life really revolutionize some things and change some things quickly for guys. So just the importance of developing principles in your life, in your marriage, in your parenting, in your career, and really understanding that, and not just understanding it, but starting to apply it, starting to write principles that you will live by. And then finally, this whole commitment, it's really simple. It's only a couple of pages of the book, but the idea of viewing all relationships through the lens of Christ, and we're either Christ or the church. We're either being Jesus to people who need to know Jesus, or we're being Jesus to people who know Jesus to encourage them. That's a great, simple worldview that we can live by as men to look at our relationships, is to look at any relationship in our life and see it through the lens of Christ. So, the synergy, guys, that we can provide together as Christian brothers when we pull together like the horse tandem pull, to create accountability, to help us develop life principles, and then to really begin to have very healthy relationships in every area of our life. That's really key. And then finally, we wrap up in one of my very favorite passages of Scripture is Ephesians 6. Now, let me give you the discussion questions for chapter 18. Number 1, talk about the synergy principle. What are some ways this dynamic has already occurred in your group? And then how can you maximize that concept? Question number 2, talk about the Ecclesiastes 4 passage and the offensive defense shown in those phrases. Question number 3, discuss the difference between disclosure and accountability. How can you move toward more accountability in your group? Question number 4, discuss a plan for eliminating the secrets from your life through your group. Question number 5, talk about the concept of how implementing principles in your life can help you make a decision once and then just stick with it. Question number 6, talk about a plan for developing offensive principles inside your group. What are some offensive principles you already have in place? What are some that you need to put into place? Question number 7 is the flip on the offensive. Talk about the defensive principles in your group, the ones you already have in place, some that you may need to put into place. Question number 8, discuss the Being Jesus worldview that's on page 224. How can this outlook help you in all your relationships? Question number 9, which of the 6 areas, environment, prayer, scripture, accountability, principles, and relationships, do you tend to be the most successful? Which is the one you just knock it out in? And then, after you talked about that, which one is your biggest struggle? And then talk about why. Why do you think you're really good at one, and why do you think you really struggle in another? The final question, question number 10, before you go to the wrap-up session. How might the mindset of accepting we are all in a spiritual battle help you commit more to Christ and how to grow as his disciples? Really understanding that we are in a spiritual battle and the reality of that. How can that motivate us, inspire us, and help us to grow?